um, that are coming from different countries on a topic related to sustainability in youth work. Like more concretely, just some words. Throughout this project, our aim is to create, let's say, space for learning, exchange, and reflection on how sustainability. Just a second to admit somebody else in the room. So what was I saying? Yeah. So basically, how sustainability can be better understood and integrated into youth work practice. As we all know, sustainability is a topic that is becoming more and more present in our everyday lives. And therefore, it's involved in the youth work organizations, the work of the youth organizations, as well as educators and the youth workers themselves. At the same time, it is a topic that can be approached in many different ways. Which is why we felt important to open it through this series of webinars that just took this issue to another dimension. So I will just briefly inform you, although most of you are like the same people who are following this series of webinars, which is amazing. So far we had explored several important topics. We started with youth worker sustainability, which was the first webinar that was, let's say, giving a broader introduction to the connection between sustainability and youth organizations. Then we have a second one that was more focused on self-assessment tool in youth work, where we were looking at the reflection, the quality improvement in youth work practice, followed by a third, the guide for sustainability for youth organizations, which was divided into two phases because it was very comprehensive, where we were reflecting regarding quality improvement in youth work practice, while the second one was placed to, let's say, a more organizational approaches, structures, and practical ways of strengthening the sustainability within the organizations themselves. In this sense, let's say the fifth webinar, which will be done today, is basically, let's say, gradually build up theme. So today we will have a topic which will be presented by our lovely partners from France. And let's say we hope that today's session will continue in that spirit of learning and getting more useful ideas and everything that we can use in practice in our daily work. I hope it will contribute also to the wider conversation on how youth work can remain relevant, responsible, and meaningful in the time where sustainability is becoming increasingly important issue for all of us. Once again, thank you all for being here, for your interest so far, and for your time. The second thing, if I didn't mention, because I'm not sure, just to note that this meeting will be recorded. So just to know. That being said, I give the floor to Francisca and Lilith from Youth ID, which will now tell you more about what is their topic for today and what they have to present for us. So I hope you enjoy and that you will learn something new.
Hey, thank you so much, Steven, for the introduction. Thanks to everyone for joining. So as Steven said, today we are going to talk about something that's pretty straightforward, but is actually kind of a big deal: individual action versus collective action on climate. So we're getting to greenwashing, climate justice, and what we're doing concretely through our projects. So before to go into it, let's do a little energizer with two questions on Mentimeter. So I'm going to share my screen. So the first question is, what words come to mind when you think of collective versus individual sustainability in youth work? So you just have to scan this QR code, and then you will be able to answer to this question with one word. Okay, we have first one question. Responsibility. Balance. Awareness, yes. Cooperation. Feel of belonging. Motivation. Community, commitment. Resilience.
Yeah, I think you all have like great ideas, and some of them are in our presentation, so we can go into it. But we have a second question. So,
Where is
okay.
the other question?
There's no
Wait.
question.
Yeah, this one.
The question is coming.
Okay. If there are other people that I can scan the.
You can scan the QR code.
Yes.
Again, maybe.
Another person. Okay, let's go.
For you, who invented the concept of carbon footprints? You have the British Petroleum, Greenpeace, or the UN. I have 10 seconds left. Okay. So the majority was for Greenpeace, but unfortunately, the response was British Petroleum. So yes, it is one of the biggest oil company, and they launched the carbon footprint calculators in the late 2000s. And so you can calculate your personal carbon footprint. So it's kind of a genius, but kind of hypocrite because there's a big oil company. So yes, everyone can go on this site and they can calculate their carbon footprint. We have the same with other brands like Coca-Cola, Total Energy. They are doing all the same thing, and this is called greenwashing. So when it's big companies that will say to you that you need to use carton straw, meanwhile they are producing and polluting more and more than everyone at us, then yes. So to tell you like some numbers, it is 100 companies that are responsible for 71% of the global emission, while they are telling to everyone to recycle and use paper straw. So that's greenwashing, and this is not just a lazy marketing, but it is a strategy and a way of shift of responsibility into individual, so the system doesn't have to change.
Okay. For the second part is the shift in thinking. So for years, the message was you need to do better, make better choices, change your habits. And okay, individual choices aren't meaningless, but let's be real. Even if every single person on the planet recycled perfectly, turned off every light, never took a plane again, it still wouldn't be enough, not with the structural stuff staying exactly the same. So the thing I started to shift, less about individual guilt, more about collective leverage. But it's also important that to it also sorry doesn't have, it's also important that doesn't mean your action don't matter. They do, just not in isolation. Individual action matter when it creates norms, when it's in on what you value, when it puts pressure on system to change. There is a real difference between choosing a veggie meal for yourself and pushing to change the default menu at the school canteen. One is a personal choice, the other is a shift in the system. Both start somewhere, but they don't have the same reach. At USIG, we try to hold both of sides, and I want to be concrete about what that actually looks like because it's easy to say we do both and not explain what that means in practice. Take our influencer partnerships. When we work with people, we have big audiences online. The goal isn't just visibility, it's norm shifting. You're reaching thousands of people at once, changing what feels normal, what feels desirable. That's inherently collective. You're not changing one person's mind, you're moving the culture slightly. One post, one video, one conversation that lands differently because it comes from someone people trust. That's leverage at scale. Then, on the other end, individual mentoring with young people, one on one, slow, personal. And you might think, okay, that's individual side, so it's smaller. But that's not quite right either. Because when you work deeply with one person, help them understand something, help them name what they already believe, help them find their own entry point into all of this, that person goes back into the community, their school, their group of friends. Individual change the radiate outward is not contained, it spreads. Composting, zero waste events, veggie meal built into our programs as a default, not as an option. There are small gestures, but they are gestures that happen in group context, repeatedly, until they stop being gesture and start being just how things are done. That shift from we're doing something special today to this is normal for us, that's actually enormous. That's culture change at the micro level.
So then, in the SustainYouth program, we decided to do some workshops with another organization that is called GetUp. So we ran workshop with young people in working class neighborhood. So there's something that come up every time is the frustration from young people because they are asked to do a lot about the environment, but they are not the cause of it. So because most of what gets proposed, it cuts money, like taking the train instead of the plane. Now it's like more expensive to take the train. It's the same for the bike. If you want to take a bike, you want to go with the e-bike that will be like faster, but it's also not affordable for everyone. So there are great options, but everyone cannot like take them. So we want to propose to them like spaces when they can talk about it and try to find a solution. So people that are like the most impacted of it because of the pollution, the areas impacted from the high emission are the working class neighborhood. So this is why it is really frustrating, and this is a justice issue. It's not anymore only climate issue. So in this workshop, we don't start with here what we should do as individuals, but we start naming the injustice that they are they're receiving, like saying yes, it is unfair, but it is real, and the climate is touching everyone, so we need to act on it. So we took collective actions, actually, like we talk about it. We talk about it on social media. We try to raise awareness about it. We talk about green mobility that should be like more affordable for young people. Is what we are doing in all our organization with the Erasmus Plus program, and it is more about access than like we. If we wanted to take public transportation, we should be having like metro lines, subway lines near to our house and everyone. So these are political questions, and it's not a lifestyle questions.
So where does this leave us on the whole individual versus collective thing? There are basically three positions floating around. The first one is forget individual action, go all in on a systemic change. Individual stuff is a distraction. it makes people feel good without actually fixing anything. The second one would be both matter and they work together. You need people making different choices and you need structure to change, not either or. And the third one is individual action as a pressure level. You act, you push, you report, you educate, and that puts people pressure on bigger system. But we are not here to tell you which one is the right one, which one is the bad one. Our job is just to help people to think about it, to find them answer. But we do believe one thing clearly that without tools for organization, young people have no real way to turn their energy into change. You can be motivated, very values and line ready to go, but if the structures around don't move, it goes nowhere.
So I think it's a good time to talk about the SustainYouth program. So maybe you already hear about it, but if it's your first webinar, maybe it's a good reminder. So with the SustainYouth program, we do several things and tools so we can tell the youth work organization how they can use them. So we try to target the youth work program, the NGOs, and we try to give them concrete tools about what can be integrated in their lifestyle, in their work lifestyle, so they can talk about it to the young people that are in the NGOs. So the first one is the assessment tool. This one is a core output of the project. It's an interactive tool that helps associations to evaluate their own level of sustainability, not just in terms of what you are doing, but how they are operated internally. So the energy, the use of events, the travel, the food, the communication, all of it. So the idea is before you can change something, you need to know where you're starting from. In Europe organization, this is what we were telling you before, but for example, with the event that we did in Italy, people came there, like we were talking about green travel and everything, so it is really integrated in the programs. So now you might think, but is it a assessment tool kind of individual thing? Yeah, technically, but it's not an individual gesture because you feed something to one person and they will talk about it to other person. So if you talk about this assessment tool to the director of your organization, they will talk about it to the managers and to the volunteers. They will talk about it to their friends. So it is at the end a collective action. The second one is the practical guide that we created. It is a guide about sustainability in youth organization. There are concrete hand-on with templates, activities, and real resources. So people can go on it and find all the steps to follow so they can make their events more sustainable in communication and in the logistic aspects. The goal is to make it actionable, accessible, and not written for experts, but they can be for everyone, even the NGOs that are created by young people. The third one is mentoring and coaching, and this is what we did with the organization that's called Get Up. We address all the guide that we had, all the experience that we had, and we had thanks to other organizations also, and we share them to all the organization and people that we know, the volunteers that have concrete projects, and we do a little inbox so they can go back and forth and take the tools that they need in a special event. So we also do it with this kind of webinars when we open the conversation about different themes that we had for 5 webinars now. We kind of want to share all the point of view. We have 7 countries, 7 language, and we want to say that this is a matter that affects everyone behind across borders, across the countries, and we need really to work about this together. So this is what we try to do also with these webinars to touch more people, even if they are not like in our country and we don't know them yet.
So to wrap up, let's go back to where we started, individual versus collective, because I think by now it's clear that framing it as a versus is actually part of the problem. So we've been sold the story for decades that the most important thing you can do for the planet is make better personal choices, and that story didn't come from nowhere. It was built deliberately by the same companies that were causing the damage. The carbon footprint calculator, the recycling campaign, the be the change messaging, all of it designed to keep the camera pointed at us while the bigger emitter kept going. Sorry. When you make a choice, composting, a veggie meal, take the train, the power isn't just in that single act, it's in what it signals, what it normalizes, what it makes people for other around you. Individual action matter most when it's contagious, when it shifts the default, when it becomes when it becomes the starting point for a conversation, a policy, a standard, when it stops being just you. And that's where collective action picks up, not as the better version of individual action, but as the extension. The thing that gives it courage, we talk about climate change, climate justice, and I want to come back to that because it's changed the whole equation. If the transition is built on options that only some people can access, it's not a transition. It's a reshuffling of who gets to feel good about themselves, while the problem still continues. Real collective action means making sure the people who contribute the least to the crisis aren't the ones paying the highest price for solutions. That's what the work with GetUp is about. That's what SustainYouth is about, giving tools to young people, to organization, so that the energy is there and the structure is there to turn it into something real. Because motivation without structure burns out, values without tools goes nowhere, and individual commitment without collective infrastructure, it stays personal, which is beautiful but not enough. So thank you for listening. Do you have questions?